Hi, I'm Heba from Yoga with Heba. I'm coming to you straight from the Sands Atlantic Beach Club in Long Island, New York. Long Island has some of the most beautiful beaches, and today's workshop will be about back bends. Back bends happen to be one of the most challenging poses because you can't see what's going on behind you. So this is where we really connect the mind with the body. Iyengar explains in a quote, which I'm going to read to you. Back bends are not meant for expression. Back bends are meant to understand the back part of our bodies. The front body can be seen with the eyes, but the back body can only be felt. That's why I say these are the most advanced postures, where the mind begins to look at the back. One might think that being able to do back bends has to do with flexibility. Actually, back bends strategically open the front line of the body, starting with the quads, the abdomen, the chest, and the shoulder. It's not really about flexibility, but so much more about surrender and stability. Back bends are often referred to as heart openers. Because you're surrendering and opening your heart chakra, you're given the chance to experience life through joy and happiness. Now let's begin.
Hi, this is Yoga with Heba. I'm Heba, and today's workshop is brought to you from the Sands Atlantic Beach Club in Long Island, New York. We have some of the most beautiful beaches. Today's workshop is about back bends. Back bends allow you to open your heart chakra. Some people, when they open their heart, they need someone there to catch them. When they surrender, the most important person to catch you is yourself. No one can love you more than you can love yourself. Remember this as we open our heart chakras and practice our back bends. We are going to begin with my favorite, child's pose or balasana. From hero's pose, we're going to walk our hands out as far as we can, keeping our hips down as far as possible, bringing our foreheads down to the mat. From here, inhale, lengthen the spine, exhale, and sink deeper into the pose. Do this at your own pace for about 3 times. It really is a great stretch for your shoulders, your spine, and hips. Inhale, lengthen the spine. Exhale, sink deeper into the pose. Inhale, lengthen the spine. Exhale, sink deeper into the pose. Now, walk back up into hero's pose. Connect with your breath. One modification is to place a blanket, today I have towels, under your knees. Another modification to allow you to get deeper into the stretch is to use yoga blocks. Using the blocks increases your range of motion in order to help you to get a deeper stretch. Walk your hands out onto the blocks. Bring your forehead as far down as you can. Inhale, lengthen the spine. Exhale, go deeper into the stretch. Inhale, lengthen the spine. Exhale, go deeper into the pose. Make sure not to shrug your shoulders by your ears. Use this pose to help after a long day of sitting in front of devices, hunched over. Continue to inhale and exhale, practicing Ujjayi breath and finding harmony in the pose. Slowly walk your way back into Hero's Pose. The next pose is Parigasana, or Gated Pose. From Hero's Pose, you're going to come onto your knees. If you have sensitive knees, please place a blanket under the knee that you'll be working with. We will start with our right knee first. Remember to place a blanket under your right knee. I will also show you a modification. First, I'll show you the way it is meant to be. Then I'll show you the modification with a block. I'll move the towels out of the way so you can see my leg extended. From Hero's Pose, please come up onto your knees and separate them, making sure your knees are under your hips. The tops of your feet are planted into the mat. Your knees are grounded into the mat. Engage in your thighs. Engage in your abdominals. And bring your shoulder blades down. From here, extend your right leg to the side. Making sure that your foot is flat on the mat. Thank you for your service. Military, we gotta be thankful. Okay, so making sure that your foot is flat on the mat and lined up with the edges of the mat, I'm going to bring the block out in front of me. The right hand should rest on the block if you do not feel stable as you extend to the side. I will show you how it's expected to be done, then I will show you the modification. Inhale and raise your hands up above your head. Exhale and bend to your right side, extending your right hand on your right leg. If this is too challenging, place your right hand on your block and your left hand should be up and over your left ear. You can see that my range of motion is limited. Inhale and lengthen your spine. Exhale and sink deeper into the pose. Inhale again and lengthen your spine. Exhale, sink deeper into the pose. On your next exhalation, we will release the pose. Inhale and lengthen. And slowly bring your arm down. Use the block to help you. Bring your leg back to your knees into Hero's Pose. As you know in yoga, what you do on one side, you must practice on the other side. So, From Hero's Pose, come back up onto your knees. This time we will work with the left side. Separate your knees and bring the left leg out to the side, making sure that the outside of the left foot is lined up with the edge of the mat. Inhale, bring your hands up above your head. Exhale, and extend the left arm onto your left leg, and your right hand is up and over the right ear. Inhale and lengthen. Exhale and sink deeper into the pose. Again, inhale and lengthen. Exhale and sink deeper into the pose. On my next exhalation, I'm going to come slowly out of the pose. Slowly bring your hand down and use the block for support if you need it. Bring your knees back together and come back onto Hero's Pose. Now we will go into a back bend or Setu Virasana. Start in staff pose or Dandasana. Lower yourself down into supine, making sure your body is fully on the mat. Bend your knees, keeping them aligned with your hips, grounding your feet down. Engage in the thighs, making sure your hands are palm down on the mat, pushing your arms down into the mat. Draw the shoulders down into the mat. Press down through the heels. Inhale and lift the hips up. Keep the space between your shin and your chest. My shoulders and triceps are pushing down into the mat and are engaged in the pose, keeping my knees towards the midline. On the exhale, lower down. A modification that can be used is to place an egg underneath your tailbone, and that could just be enough of a lift. Another expression that one could practice is bringing their shoulder underneath their body after they lift and clasping their hands together. I'm working towards that, but I'm not there yet. So let's do this again. Feet are ground down into the mat. Knees are hip distance apart. Hands are palm down, ground into the mat. Arms are engaged and pushing down. Shoulders are drawn down and into the mat away from our ears. Our abdomen is engaged. Inhale, press down through the heels and lift the hips. Exhale and lower down. Make sure not to push out the knees as you lift up. One modification that could make this easier is using a block. You can place a block between your legs and squeeze the knees together. Let's try with the block. Feet are ground into the mat, knees are hip distance apart, hips are engaged, abdomen is engaged, hands, arms, and shoulders are drawn down into the mat, and your neck is elongated. Your crown is even pushing down into the mat. Making sure that all parts of your body are engaged and pushing down into the mat. Inhale and lift yourself up. Hold the pose. Exhale and lower down. Let's do this again. Inhale and raise yourself up, trying to squeeze the arms and the shoulder blades together. Exhale and lower down. Let me adjust because I feel like I'm hitting the back of the wall. Make sure to realign if you're not ground into the mat. I'm going to try to clasp my arms and squeeze my shoulders together on the next lift because my shoulders are nice and warm. Everything is ground into the mat. Our pelvic bone is tilted up, engaged in the glutes, squeezing the block and engaging in the inner thighs. Inhale and raise up, pushing down into the shoulders, lifting through the chest. Try to walk your hands together as you squeeze your shoulder blades. Exhale and lower down. I was unable to clasp my hands, but they did move closer together. But maybe you were able to at home. Now let's remove the block and release any tension from the lower back. Gently bring your knees together. Rock your hips from side to side, pushing slightly into the mat. Just releasing any tension that you may have felt from that pose. Stretch out your legs and slowly move to your right side, supporting yourself. Slowly come up. Now on to the next pose. Now we're going to practice Uttanasana or Camel's Pose, which is a pretty challenging pose. There is definitely more than one modification you can use. So from Hero's Pose, I'm going to move to my side. From here, you're going to get up onto your knees. Make sure your knees are hip distance apart and place your hands on the back of your hips. Elbows are pointing back and your fingertips are pointing down. From here, make sure your knees are ground down into the mat and engage into the spine. Engage into your thighs. Rise up your spine. Draw your shoulder blades down. Engage your core and slowly bend back. Turning your chin into the sky, making sure not to dump into your back. This is as far as I can go for the modification. I'd like you to look to your right side and grab your heel. Then move to your left side and grab your left heel, turning your chin up. Inhale, lengthen the spine. Exhale and lower down. We can do a few modifications. We can use the blocks to balance, or we can elevate ourselves using the blankets or a bolster. Let's try this to see what works. Everything is always trial and error. Just be careful not to injure yourself. So I'm going to place everything in order so that I know where everything is before I begin. Now let's see if this works. Let's move that over. Placing your knees on the blanket with your blankets behind you. Actually, another modification, instead of keeping your feet flat, is to curl your feet under. This will give you more height. I'm going to start with that instead of the blocks. From this position, a modified hero's pose, come up onto your knees and place your hands on your back of your hips, fingertips facing down. Knees are ground into the mat, engaging in your thighs, engaging in your core. Draw your shoulders down. Do not scrunch them into your ears. From here, start bending back slowly, opening up your throat and allowing that oxygen in. Now you should feel more supported because the toes are curled under. Bring your right hand to your right heel and bring your left hand to your left heel. Raise your chin. Actually, another modification is doing one side at a time. We're going to try that now. Again, my hands are on my back and my fingertips are facing down. Engage in your core and ground down into the mat. Slowly bend back, grabbing your left heel, your right heel, and then your left hand is on your back. Extend into the pose. Inhale and exhale. Again, inhale, lengthen, exhale, go deeper into the pose. Try and find harmony. Inhale and bring your hand back and lower down into hero's pose. Now we're going to practice on the left side, but give yourself a moment to connect back to your breath using Ujjayi breath, breathing in through our nose and out through our nose. Again, take another deep breath in through your nose and letting out what doesn't serve you out through your nose. Continue breathing until you are ready. Okay, come back up onto your knees. Place your hands on your hips, fingertips facing down and curling your toes under. Inhale and slowly bend back, turning your chin to the sky. Remember not to dump into your back. Take in that fresh oxygen. Feel supported in your pose, but surrender all at the same time. Slowly look to your left and grab your left heel while keeping your right hand on the back of your hip. Inhale and lengthen. Exhale and go deeper into the pose. Bring your left hand to your back and slowly bring your head parallel to the floor, lower down into hero's pose, camel's pose modified. The next pose is fish pose or Matsayasana. The full expression of the pose requires your legs and your hands to be straight up and touching. However, I'm not there yet, so I'm going to start with a modification. From hero's pose, lay in a supine position on your back with your legs stretched out in front of you. Place your palms into the mat and flex your feet. Engage in the thighs and tighten the glutes. Engage the core. From here, rise up into your forearms. keeping your elbows just below your shoulders, but not too far back. Make sure you don't go too far back behind your shoulders, because then you won't be able to bring your crown into the mat. So from a comfortable spot, bring your crown into the mat. Inhale, lengthen. Exhale, go deeper into the pose. Again, inhale, opening your heart space, taking in all that oxygen. Exhale, go deeper into the pose. Allow yourself to surrender into the pose, finding that sweet spot where the mind and the body connect. Inhale, lengthen. Exhale, go deeper into the pose, lifting your chest. Making sure that you're allowing yourself to surrender, finding that sweet spot in the pose, finding harmony in the pose. So if I was working with someone, I would have them lift me from my waist to make sure that I'm not collapsing into the pose. I guess this is what Iyengar had in mind when he said the mind has to feel the back. Continue breathing through the pose. And on your next exhalation, you're going to lower the body down, releasing any tension from the lower back. From here, we're going to roll out onto your right side. Make sure you release any tension from your lower back. Slowly help support yourself up into the pose. That is a great pose to really open up your heart chakra. I really felt like I was surrendering. And the more I surrendered and found that sweet spot, the more at peace I was in that pose. When I actually only thought about what I was doing, I felt off balance because I wasn't connecting the mind and the body. It just seems that with everything you do in life, we really need to surrender control. We really need to learn how to let go. Life really is about learning how to let go. From Virasana, we will go into bow pose or Dhanurasana. Walk your hands out onto your belly, placing your hands down on the mat by your side. Bend into your knees, one at a time or both at the same time. Wrap your hands on the outer side of your feet, one at a time. First, wrap your right hand around your right foot. Then wrap your left hand around your left foot. Knees are hip distance apart. Slowly raise your head, being careful not to dump into your neck. Inhale and push your feet into your hands, lifting you up. Be careful not to push your knees out. Exhale and lower yourself down slowly. Release one leg at a time, slowly, making sure not to slam your feet down. Bring your hands to your shoulder, slowly rising up into hero's pose. Walk your hands out. Come back onto your heels. Now let's try that again. From Hero's Pose, walk your hands out and lay on your stomach. Bring your hands to your side. And bring your head to one side. Inhale, bend your knees towards your glutes, keeping your knees hip distance apart. Wrap your hands around your feet, one at a time. First your right and then your left. Inhale and push your feet into your hands, allowing you to lift yourself up. Exhale and lower down your head slowly. Release your legs one at a time. Bring your hands to your shoulder. Lift up, walking back into Hero's Pose. Give yourself permission to join me in Bhujangasana or Cobra Pose. From Hero's Pose, you're going to walk your hands out and lay on your stomach. Feet are going to be flat, pushing into the mat. Thighs are engaged, core is engaged, and hands are palm down under the shoulders, pressing into the mat. You're going to inhale and lift the chest up and make sure that your shoulders are away from your ears, opening up the throat. Inhale. On your next exhalation, lower down. Let's try that again. Lay down on your stomach on the mat, pressing the tops of your feet down into the mat, making sure your thighs are engaged and your core is engaged. Palms are pressed into the mat by your ribs. Inhale and lift up. Exhale and push into the pose. Inhale and lengthen. Exhale and push deeper into the pose. Inhale and lengthen. Exhale and lower down. One more time, pressing down with the tops of our feet, engaging in the thighs, engaging the core, pressing our palms down, making sure that the shoulders are away from the ears and that everything is engaged. On your next inhalation, lift up. Feel the strength of your legs and arms as they hold your body up. Exhale and push deeper into the pose. Inhale, lengthen, holding your body up, feeling the strength of your body, making sure your shoulders are away from your ears. Exhale and lower down. Now we are going to practice Baby Cobra or Urdhva Bhujangasana. We're still going to follow the same steps, but we're not going to rise up as high. It's almost like a halfway lift. So, from here, pressing the tops of your feet into the mat, engage in the thighs, engage in the core. Make sure your palms are by your ribs, pressing down into the mat. Do not scrunch your shoulders into your ears. Inhale and halfway lift, squeezing your muscles. Exhale, push your pubic bone into the mat. Inhale and lengthen. Squeezing all your muscles. Still feeling the strength of your body in this pose. On your next exhalation, lower down. Slowly walk yourself back into Hero's Pose. Inhale, connect to your breath. Exhale. A lot of people's favorite sit-ups or lion's pose. This is a great one to release some tension or stress. I like to use it in my classroom. I think I'm going to try that next year. Just your day can be filled with so much stress, from the person who's cutting you off in traffic to the person who didn't make your coffee the correct way or your sandwich the correct way. And yes, sure, there's some negativity there, but it's part of life. But a good way to relieve some of that stress is the lion's pose. So let's begin. From Hero's Pose, we're going to take a big inhalation and walk out. And exhale. And just let it all out. Let's do that again. We're going to do it 3 times. Inhale and walk out. And then exhale, let it all out. Inhale, walk back, and walk out, and exhale. And what I notice happening as I exhale, I'm actually also relieving a lot of tension in my spine. And I have this curvature happening. So I'll show you from here what's happening as I let everything out. We're going to inhale and then exhale. So that really feels great. Walk out and exhale. Lion's pose. The next pose is Shalabhasana or locust pose. From Hero's Pose, walk out and lay on your stomach. Place your head down facing your right side to release any tension in your neck. Press the tops of your feet into the mat. Engage in the thighs, engage in the core, and place your hands by your side. Before you begin on the inhalation, I want you to know that you're going to be lifting both your feet, legs, head, chest, and arms all at the same time, pressing down into the mat, facing forward and not to the side. Press your feet into the mat, thighs are engaged, core is engaged. Draw your shoulder blades down. Prepare for the pose, making sure all your parts are engaged. Do not shrug the shoulders into the ear. Inhale and raise, squeezing all your muscles together. Exhale and lower down. Now you're facing the left side. Inhale and raise up from the toes all the way to the crown, pushing down into the mat. Exhale, empty your abdomen, feel your pubic bone pressing down. Inhale and lengthen. Exhale and press down. Inhale and lengthen. Exhale and lower down into the mat. Let's try this pose again, turning your head to the other side. Press the tops of your feet down into the mat. Engage in the thighs. Engage in the core. Your hands are by your side, palms facing up, and your shoulders are drawn down so that you do not scrunch up into the mat. When we're in the pose, we're going to inhale and exhale a few times, emptying out our stomach. Inhale and lengthen. Exhale and push your pubic bone down into the mat. Inhale and lengthen, engaging every muscle in your body. Exhale and lower everything down into the mat. Turn your head to the other side, releasing any tension in your neck. Take a moment and connect back to your breath, connecting the mind with the body. Connect back to Ujjayi breath. Inhaling from the nose, exhaling from the nose. Prepare your body for the pose. Making sure all the muscles are engaged and pressed down. Inhale and raise up from the toes to the crown, engaging all your muscles, pushing down into the mat. Exhale and lower down the body. Releasing any tension. Let's walk out of this pose, placing your hands under your shoulders and pushing up slowly. Walk your way back into Hero's Pose. Give yourself a moment to reflect on everything that you've accomplished so far. And remember, in life, you always have a choice to choose joy and happiness over negativity. Sure, some people will say, hey, I'm a realist. I know I was one of them. It's like looking at the glass half full or half empty. Sure, I know, and I completely understand that life isn't always sunshine and rainbows. That's impossible. That doesn't exist. That's not real. And when you're giving into grief, when you're grieving, it's okay to surrender into that grief. That is part of life. But when the situation in front of you isn't that serious, and it's not grief that you're feeling or surrendering to, it will benefit you to just choose joy and happiness over negativity. When life has given you a bad hand, like for example, if you're a teacher and you get a bad class, or at your job you get a harder workload, choose to look at it as a challenge, how you can better yourself from it and how you can grow. See how you can evolve from this situation. Choose joy and happiness over negativity every time.
The sun is starting to peek out again. It was a bit cloudy before. So now we're going to go into Anatasana, or Vishnu's couch pose. We're going to go and lie down on our side, making sure that our elbows aligned with our ear, that our shoulders are scrunched into our ear, making sure our hip and our legs are also aligned and our feet are aligned. So I don't have as much flexibility as I'd like. Normally you would bend your knee, put your big toe into a yogi toe lock, which means taking your forefinger, wrapping it around and sealing it with your thumb, and then you would bring your leg up. But I'm unable to then align my hips because your hips still have to square away. So I'm going to use a strap to help me. Okay, so back into the position. My elbow is underneath my ear. I'm facing forward. My hips and my legs are aligned. I have to balance right in the center there, which can be very challenging. So now I'm going to bend my knee towards me and bring my foot up using the strap. And then I'm going to bring and square away my hips and inhale and exhale, enjoying Vishnu's couch pose. As I inhale, I'm going to lengthen and
exhale deeper into the pose. And make sure not to scrunch my ears into my shoulder. I'm straightening out. From this pose, you can bring yourself down, but that's just too hard for me to keep balance. Okay, so now we're going to go into the other side.
probably better to go down from the beginning. Okay. Bring my strap again. Now I am on my right side. Okay. Making sure everything is in line. Looking straight ahead. Engaging the core. Stabilizing the legs, making sure they're in one line. Bending my leg first. And then bringing it up. This is definitely very challenging. I'm going to need more stability. So I'm going to come back up onto my shoulder, making sure my elbows aligned with my ear, and that my legs are aligned and my hips are aligned with my legs. Not too far forward, not too far back, right in the middle. Bending my left leg and bringing it up. And it's definitely more challenging for me on this side. So we'll see where I can have my stability. My legs to be right there. I'm getting a Charlie horse already. Let's try this again. Slowly. And this is the right place for me. Slowly bringing it down. And sitting up. Vishnu's couch pose. He must have been a trickster.
Join me in the next pose, King Pigeon Posture, Eka Pada Raja Kopatasana. From Tadasana, you're going to hinge in the hips and walk out into downward facing dog. Spread palms nice and wide, rotate the shoulders away from the ears, and gently relax your head and neck. You're going to bend your knee towards your chest and gently lower down your left knee and bring it down towards your left wrist, extending your right leg back. This is pigeon pose. If you can bring your left foot closer to your right hand, you can get more of a stretch. I'm going to keep it closer to my groin. because that's enough of a stretch for me. Square away your hips. You may want to place an egg underneath your hip so you can balance out your hips. From here, you're going to lay down into sleeping pigeon pose and take a few breaths. Practicing your Ujjayi breath, sinking into the pose. From here, I'm going to try to bring myself into the full expression of the pose, which is quite challenging. I will still keep one hand on the mat for stability, and I'm going to use my strap to help me try and get into the full expression of the pose. Bringing my right hand above my crown, raising myself and trying to keep balanced all at the same time is so challenging. As you can see, I'm having a really hard time, but maybe you're trying and you're getting further ahead at it. From here, I'm going to lower down and move into the next leg. I'm going to place my strap before I begin. Take a moment to enjoy Mother Nature and all its beauty. Taking a few breaths here to compose myself. So now my strap is in my left foot, holding for my left hand. From Tadasana, I'm going to hinge at the hips and walk out into downward facing dog. Make sure to stretch your shoulders outward away from your ears. Gently releasing your head and neck. Now bend your right knee towards your chest and gently bring your right knee aligned with your right wrist. And for a deeper stretch, you can bring your right foot next to your left hand. Square away at the hips so that they are even. Connect to your breath. Open your heart chakra and surrender into the pose. Continue to connect to your breath while I adjust my strap. On your next exhalation, you're going to lower yourself down into sleeping pigeon pose. Stay here, connecting to your breath for several counts. Surrender into the pose. Allow yourself to find harmony in this pose. I'm going to try to get into the full expression of the pose by lifting my extended foot up, bent at the knee, but I can't seem to get my balance. And so that's okay. I'll surrender back into pigeon pose. And just enjoy this moment, feeling harmony in the pose. Thank you for joining me for this workshop. It really has been a pleasure. Remember to open your heart and surrender so that you can experience life through joy and happiness. With love and light, this is Heba from Yoga with Heba, and I hope to see you on the next video.